There you are. It's late. Maybe it's 2 a.m., maybe it's 11 p.m., but you cannot sleep. You don't want to call your sister because you've been talking her ear off lately. You don't want to text your attorney because we know the meter's running and you feel guilty. And you don't want to post anything on social media to get advice because the last thing you need is for your ex or your ex's attorney to screenshot it. So you do what so many people in your exact situation are doing right now. You open your phone or your computer, and by that glow of the screen, you type a question into an AI tool. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, any one of the number one top friends. You type it in, and you hope that whatever comes back to you is actually going to help you. I know you're doing this. I know because I hear from you listeners and because I went looking. I did research on this because I wanted to know what the questions are that people are asking right now when no one is watching, when they're not in front of the lawyer, when they are just trying to figure out how to get through this. And what I found changed how I think about what you need from this show. I'm Susan Guthrie, and I've been a family law attorney and mediator for more than 35 years. For the past 5+ years, I've had the privilege of sitting across from some of the most brilliant legal minds, mental health experts, financial professionals, and divorce coaches in the world on this podcast, Divorce and Beyond. And today, in this episode, I'm going to answer those questions. The real ones, the ones people type into AI in the middle of night when they think no one is listening. Because here's what I have found. The questions are exactly right. What AI gives back? That's where we need to talk. Welcome to Divorce and Beyond, a podcast about navigating divorce and what comes next. I'm Susan Guthrie. I'm a divorce attorney and mediator, and for more than 3 decades, I've helped people navigate divorce with clarity, strategy, and compassion. Each episode offers practical insight into the legal, emotional, and life decisions that shape your future. So let's get started. Welcome, listener, to Divorce and Beyond. If you're new here, I am so glad you have found us. This show exists for one reason: to give you the kind of clear, honest, expert-backed information that can actually change how your divorce goes and how your life looks on the other side of it, in your beyond, as we like to call it. Now, today's episode came out of something I have been thinking about for a while. We are living in a moment where people have access to more information than in any generation before them, because you can ask an AI almost anything and literally get a response in seconds. And I think that's genuinely remarkable. In fact, in my other day job, you may not know this, listeners, but I am a technology and AI integration specialist and consultant for lawyers and dispute resolution professionals. I am immersed in the world of artificial intelligence as it is used in the legal profession. So I'm not here to tell you not to use those tools. I use them every day, all day myself. But here is what I keep running into. The questions that you are all asking AI about divorce are the right questions. They are the questions I hear from listeners. They're the questions that matter. They are the questions my guests have been answering on this show. But what AI gives back is, at best, a starting point. And at worst, it is incomplete in ways that can actually hurt you in your divorce journey. So I want to do something a little different today. I'm going to take the 7 top questions that people are most commonly asking AI when they're going through a divorce, and I'm going to answer them. Not with a generic list, but with my own 35 years of real experience, the 5 years of conversations with the best experts in the world on this show, and I'm going to tell you exactly what AI is missing, because that missing piece is often the most important part. Now, before I get to the questions themselves, I really need to share something important. And usually I'm talking to lawyers or dispute resolution professionals about this, but it is something that's very important for you, the person who is going through divorce, to hear. And it is something that I do not hear talked about enough or at all. Something that, as an attorney myself, I feel a real responsibility to put on the record. So grab something to write with. You're going to want to take notes in this episode. Before we move on, this is a critical caution about using AI, because I need to stop and talk to you about something that no one is discussing. The fact that people are turning to AI with their divorce questions is not a problem. I've said that already, and I really do mean it, but there are 3 specific risks that come with using commercially available AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Meta, any of the tools that are commercially available, even if you're paying, the $20 a month for them. Every single person going through divorce needs to understand these issues and risks. So the first one's probably the most intuitive, and that is, do not put your private or confidential information into any of these platforms. By that, I mean your financial details, your account information, asset specifics, the particulars of your custody situation, anything that you would not want a stranger to read. Do not cut and paste or upload any of that private, confidential information, or your spouse's or your family's or anyone else's private or personally identifying information into these platforms. These platforms process everything you type through commercial systems. You have to treat them as an open book. So if you put it in there, then you are putting it out there potentially for the world. So if you treat them like a private diary, you are making a big mistake. And I know it's compelling to feel like you have a safe place where you can have a collaborative conversation with an AI, but you want to be very careful about the tool that you are using and the information that you put into it. Now, the second issue is one that's less obvious, but honestly, it's potentially even more serious. Your AI conversations may be discoverable in your divorce proceedings. Now, case law is still developing here, and I want to be careful not to overstate the certainty, but courts have already begun ruling that communications that you might have with commercial AI tools may be subject to discovery. That means what you type into ChatGPT and what it says back to you today could potentially be requested by the other side in your case. Your spouse or their attorney, through discovery, could request that information, that you download it and forward it. I do not say that to frighten you. I say it because you deserve to know, so that when you interact with these tools, you interact with them safely. So, just as we always tell you as attorneys, imagine that every text you send might be read in court. Same thing goes here if you're using these commercially available GPTs. The third one is one that I have been cautioning all of the attorneys that I work with in trainings and in workshops, helping them to integrate AI into their practice. And I'm not hearing enough people talking about this in a public forum yet. So you all have heard probably about attorney-client privilege. That means that communications between you and your attorney are privileged and can't be brought into court and are not discoverable, meaning the other side can't ask for them, just like we were just talking about. Here's the issue. If you have communications from your attorney or any other potentially privileged communication from a professional, that could be notes from your therapist, information shared with your doctor, anything discussed with a financial professional during this process, there are all different levels of communication. There's all different levels of privilege. But if these communications are protected by privilege, and you take that privileged information and input it into a commercially available AI tool, you see where I'm going here, you may be waiving the privilege. You may be destroying the privilege that you are relying on in order to have these candid conversations with your professionals. And once privilege is waived, it cannot be restored. You cannot unring that bell. Check with your attorney before you take any information and upload it into one of these AIs. So please, use AI to understand general concepts, general terminology, and the broad landscape of how divorce works. Use this show for that. Use your own professionals for the specifics, the things that apply to your case. But do not use a commercial AI platform as a confidential space for the real details of your case. That space is your attorney's office, your therapist's room, your mediator's table. Okay, I needed to say that. I want you to take it to heart, but let's keep going. Let's get to the questions. Now, one thing you should know is there's a reason why these particular 7 questions matter so much. When someone types a question into an AI, they are not always asking the question they actually need answered. They're asking the question they know how to articulate in that moment, right? You're usually under stress, you're worrying about something, you're curious about something. And so you can put this into terms that you are able to articulate in that moment. And sometimes that's the same thing as what you're really asking. But often the real question is sitting just underneath the surface. So as I go through each question today, I'm going to answer what was asked, and I am going to answer what I think might really be being asked. Because after 35 years of doing this, I have learned that the question someone leads with is rarely the only question they have. It's usually just the one they feel safe enough to put into words. And that's okay. That is where we start. All right. Question number 1. What are the most common mistakes people make during divorce, and how can I avoid them? Absolutely. This one people have been Googling for years. I have podcast episodes about this. This is a fear question, and that's why I wanted to start with this one. Underneath this question is, I don't want to blow this. I do not want to make a mistake that I cannot undo. And that fear is completely legitimate because there are mistakes in divorce that can follow people for years. Again, go back and check the archive. We have episodes about this. Now, when you ask this question of an AI, you will get a list. It will tell you things like, do not hide assets, do not post on social media, do not sign anything without an attorney. All those things are true, but that is not what I'm talking about. The most costly mistake I have seen again and again over 35 years is making legal and financial decisions from an emotional place. And I do not say that to minimize what you are feeling, because what you are feeling is real and it is valid. So that fear I just mentioned, or that anger, those are absolutely valid feelings. But I say this because I have watched smart, capable people make agreements in mediation or in settlement that they lived to regret. Not because they were poorly advised, but because they were exhausted or angry or desperate to be done. They wanted it to be over more than they wanted it to be right. The mistakes made is not usually the thing that you can see on a checklist. It's unlikely an AI is going to come up with this response. The mistake here is the decision you make at 9 p.m. after a brutal day when your attorney calls and says the other side has responded and you just want it over with. Or you're afraid when your spouse says, "This is my last and final offer, or I'll see you in court." Or you're feeling guilty because your ex or your children are unhappy and you feel like you want to make up for that. So you agree to things that you might not feel are fair to cover that guilt. That is when the costly mistakes happen. So the advice I give you here is the same I'll give any client that I gave over the years I practiced. Before you agree to anything, sleep on it. 24 hours almost never changes the legal outcome, but it very often changes whether you can live with the decision. Another great point or marker for deciding something or determining whether you can live with something or cannot is to look at whether this will matter to you this much a year from now. Try to look at it through an emotionally neutral lens. I've talked about this on the show with some truly extraordinary guests, including some financial neutrals and divorce coaches who specialize specifically in helping people slow down and make strategic decisions under enormous pressure. That discipline, the ability to pause, is one of the most valuable things you can develop during this process. Here's one tip about the podcast. If you go to divorceandbeyondpod.com, we have a search feature that will help you look through all 450-ish archive episodes of the podcast so that you can ask questions and find the episodes that are directly on point. So if you have a question about how do I calm my emotional turmoil during divorce, how do I manage my emotions during divorce, put that into the search bar and watch the magic happen. And by the way, that's AI assisted, another way that I like to include AI in helping my listeners. All right, so that's question 1. What's question 2? Here it is. How can I find the right resources and support to help me through the divorce process? This is the loneliness question. When someone asks about resources and support, what I think they're actually saying is, I am not sure who I can trust right now, and I'm not sure where to turn. And that's a very disorienting part of divorce that people do not talk about enough. Your support system, which probably included your spouse in some form, is suddenly very complicated. Your mutual friends may feel like they have to choose. Your family wants to help, but they're also grieving or they're angry on your behalf, which is lovely of them, but not always useful. So let me give you a framework. The support you need in divorce is not one thing. It is a team, and each member of your team does something different. You will need a legal professional. That person who understands your situation and your state's laws as they pertain to your situation. And that is maybe not your friend's attorney from 5 years ago, not someone you found on a general website. It's finding someone who is the right fit for your specific circumstances and who is going to approach your divorce in the way that you want it approached, who's going to give you advice, who's going to tell you what you need to hear, and you're going to trust them when they're giving you that advice and telling you what you need to know. I also believe very strongly that you need a financial professional. A certified divorce financial analyst, also known as a CDFA, is someone who can help you understand what your settlement actually means for your financial future in real numbers, not just what you're getting in the negotiation, although they can help you with that, but that's the right now. You want to look beyond just the right now and set yourself up for your beyond. You'll also perhaps need a mental health professional, or if you've listened to the show, you know I'm a big fan of a good divorce coach. You might even need both. They do different things. A therapist helps you process the emotional weight of what you are going through. A divorce coach helps you to stay functional and strategic during the process itself. Many people can benefit from both, and you need community. People who have been through this and come out on the other side. That's partly why this show exists. You are not the first person to feel what you're feeling right now. You will not be the last, but we want you to know that you are not alone, that there are other people here to support you. So again, start on the website, divorceandbeyondpod.com. We have built this show specifically to be the kind of trusted resource that brings together the legal, financial, and emotional sides of divorce in one place. The third question that people are asking their AI friends in the middle of the night is, what are the best ways to communicate with my ex during and after the divorce? Here's where my background as a mediator, I think, becomes especially relevant, because this is a question that mediators think about deeply. And it is one where the answer is almost entirely missing from what AI gives back to you if you ask it the question. AI will tell you to keep communication businesslike, to use written communication when possible, to stick to the topic at hand, and that's all correct. But it's not enough. What most people are not told is this: how you communicate with your spouse during divorce will set the template for how you communicate with them afterward, especially if you have children. Listen to that again. Back it up. Hit the 15-second backward and listen to it again, right? Especially if you have children. How you communicate with your spouse during divorce will set the template for how you communicate with them afterward, especially if those children are young, because you may be co-parenting with this person for decades. So the goal you have to remember during divorce is not to win every exchange. The goal is to get an agreement that works and then to build a post-divorce relationship, however formal or minimal, that is functional. Every text message sent in anger, every email designed to document rather than communicate, every exchange that escalates rather than resolves costs you. Not just emotionally, sometimes legally. I have been recommending for years to clients, before you send anything to your spouse, ask yourself 2 questions. First, would I be comfortable if my attorney or my mediator or a judge read this? Oh, there's a filter. And 2, does this move the conversation forward, or does it just make me feel better in this moment? Because those are 2 very different things. There are excellent communication tools designed specifically for divorcing couples with children. One of them that comes to mind is Be Aligned. There are 2 episodes with Trina Knudsen in the archive that you may want to go check out. Also on the website, you can find a discount to try, or actually it's a free trial for Be Aligned for anyone who is a Divorce and Beyond listener. Here's what you need to know. The research is really clear. Low conflict communication is one of the strongest predictors of your children's long-term well-being after divorce. Moving on to question number 4. What are some effective strategies for co-parenting after divorce? This is really building on where we just were, but I will say the starting point is your child. What does your child experience when they move between 2 homes? What do they need in order to feel secure, loved, and not responsible for the relationship between their parents? When you lead with those questions, all of the co-parenting strategy flows differently. We know children do not need their parents to be best friends. They do not need a perfect 50-50 schedule. They need to know that both of their parents love them, that neither parent is going to make them feel guilty for loving the other one, and that the adults in their lives are capable of managing their own emotions enough to keep the children out of the middle. That's straight talk, and I know it can be hard to hear, but that is what your children need. When you are about to do something in your co-parenting relationship, ask yourself whose need this is serving. If it's serving your child's genuine needs, then proceed. If it is serving your need for validation, information, or relief, then find another way to meet that need that does not involve your child. I've had some of the leading voices in child psychology, in co-parenting coaching on the show, and the message from every single one of them is consistent. Your children can recover from divorce. What makes recovery harder is the ongoing conflict between their parents. I highly suggest, if you want to go to the website, put into the search engine any episode with Christina McGee, and you're going to get a wealth of co-parenting support. All right, number 5. How can I use the divorce process as an opportunity for personal growth and transformation? Love that people are using this opportunity and seeing a chance for personal growth and transformation in this. It's my favorite question out of all 7. And it is the one, sadly, that AI gets most wrong, because AI answers it with self-help language. It wants you to journal, use mindfulness, find your purpose. And I think, although those things can be very helpful, don't get me wrong, but I think it completely misses what's actually being asked. When someone is going through divorce and they type this question into a search bar, they're asking, is there a way through this that does not destroy me? Is it possible to come out of this as someone I recognize, or even someone better than who I was going in? And here's what I know after 35 years, folks. The answer is yes. But not by trying to turn your divorce into a growth exercise while you are in the middle of surviving it. That is too much to ask of yourself. Here's how I have often seen that real transformation happen. Get through the acute phase first. Grieve what needs to be grieved. Build your support system. Handle the legal and financial reality of where you are. And then, sometimes 6 months out, sometimes a year, sometimes 2, start asking different questions. Not what happened to me, but who do I want to be now? The name of this show is Divorce and Beyond. The beyond is not an afterthought. It's actually the point of the entire show, because I have spoken with hundreds of guests, thousands of listeners. Actually, well, I've spoken to thousands of listeners, but we have millions of listeners, and helped hundreds, if not thousands, of clients who have told me that they would not trade what they built on the other side of their divorce. Not that the pain was good, but that it led somewhere real. If you're in the middle of it right now, I am not asking you to find the silver lining today. I'm just asking you to know that the beyond exists. We are out here living it. This show is full of people who have made it to the beyond and are thriving. So know that it is possible. Questions 6 and 7 really focus on finances and the legal process. I kept them to the end, but let's start with the financial question, because this is a question I don't think the client hasn't asked me this question going through a divorce. And that is, how do I protect my financial future during and after divorce? Or how do I protect my money? Or how do I get more money? But it's always some variation of what's going to happen to my finances and how do I protect myself in this divorce? The financial piece of divorce is where I see people lose the most ground, almost always because they did not have the right professionals around them early enough. Know that the settlement you agree to today is the financial foundation you are building on for the next decade or more, right? So the settlement you reach in this divorce is going to be what takes you into the beyond. So that certified divorce financial analyst is someone whose entire expertise is helping you understand what that agreement actually means in real numbers and whether or not it can take you into your beyond and what that will look like. It's not just what you're getting in the settlement, because that can vary. It's not a simple matter of just going and cutting everything in half. It's what you are keeping after taxes, after fees, after accounting for the assets versus the actual and stated value. It's all different things. So you need to get that person on your team early before you negotiate. You need to negotiate from a place of knowing where you are going. That's called strategy. Don't negotiate in a vacuum. Have a strategy and build it, not just with your attorney, but with your CDFA. And then question number 7 is the legal one. What should I know about the legal process that my attorney might not tell me? What attorneys do not always tell you is not because they are withholding from you. It is because the legal process has its own logic and timeline that does not always map onto how you are experiencing it emotionally. The legal process is not designed for your well-being. This is one of the problems I have had with being a divorce attorney and working with people through divorce litigation from day one. It is a process designed to resolve disputes, right? That is not a process designed for your well-being. They are not the same thing. Your job, with your attorney's help, is to use the process strategically in service of an outcome that works for your actual life and for your beyond. So the most important thing that you can do with your attorney is to stay engaged. Ask questions. Make choices with intention. Don't just take your case and put it in your attorney's lap and leave it for them to deal with, because their role is to manage the legal aspects. It may even be to negotiate on your behalf. But if they don't have your input, if you're not invested, then what are they negotiating? So I want to take a few minutes to be honest with you about AI as we wrap this up. And again, this isn't to tell you not to use it, but to tell you clearly what it cannot do. Because it's extraordinary at synthesizing information. It can pull together the general landscape of divorce law, the common terminology, broad outlines of what different processes look like. You want to know what the difference between mediation, collaborative divorce, litigation, and a negotiated settlement are? Go ask an AI, because an AI can tell you. If you want to know the difference between legal separation and divorce, AI can tell you that too. What AI is not so great at doing is knowing your state, your county, your judge, and your specific set of facts. In addition, divorce law varies enormously across jurisdictions. What is standard in California is not standard in Connecticut, and I know because I practiced in both states. Those are not small details. They are often the difference between an agreement that works and one that does not. In addition, AI can't read the other party. All it's going to know about your spouse is what you tell it, which is through your filter. And yes, I know you have your story of your spouse, but it may not be neutral. And I think we all know it may not be 100% accurate if it's seen through a lens of emotion. So AI does not know whether your spouse is likely to respond to a direct offer or whether that kind of approach is going to escalate things. It does not know the history of your relationship, the dynamics at play between you, or the emotional temperature of your negotiation. A good mediator or attorney does. And honestly, the AI cannot sit with you when the fear gets loud. It cannot validate what you are actually going through. It cannot tell you the way another human being can tell you that this is survivable, that people come through this, that you are going to be okay. That's what this show is for. Before I go, I want to give you 3 things you can do this week. Not to overwhelm you, just 3 things. First, write down the questions you have been afraid to ask out loud. Not for your attorney, not for anyone else, just for you. Put them on paper, because the questions we carry in silence have a way of growing heavier than they need to. Naming the question is the beginning of finding the answer. Second, I want you to take a look at your support team and identify any gaps. Do you have the right legal professional? Do you have your financial professional? Is someone in your corner for the emotional weight of this? If one of those is missing, your first step this week is identifying one person who can help fill it. Just one. Just talk to them. You don't have to build the whole team today. Just make one step. And finally, go to the website, divorceandbeyondpod.com, and download the free resource that I put together to go along with this episode. It includes the key takeaways from all 7 questions, the support team checklist, the 3-step action plan, and those critical cautions I gave you at the top of the episode about using AI safely during your divorce. It's free. It's practical. And it includes the AI caution in writing so you can share it with anyone who needs it. All right, one last thing before I go, and I mean this sincerely. The fact that you are asking these questions, whether you type them into an AI or found your way to this show, means you are taking your situation seriously. You're not just letting it happen to you. You are trying to understand it and to navigate it with intention, and that matters. Because divorce is hard. There is no version of it that is not. But hard does not mean permanent. And the questions you ask right now, the right questions asked of the right people at the right time, have the power to change what the other side of this will look like. I want to hear what questions you are carrying them. So you can send them to me through divorceandbeyondpod.com or just send an email to divorceandbeyondpod@gmail.com or go to Instagram at, you guessed it, divorceandbeyondpod and send me a DM. Your question might be on a future episode. If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who needs it. Leave a review if you have a moment. It really, honestly makes a genuine difference in getting this show in front of the people who need it most. I'm Susan Guthrie. This is Divorce and Beyond, and I'll see you next week. If today's episode helped you see something more clearly, take a moment to reflect on one insight you can carry forward, one decision you can approach differently, one next step that feels more grounded. Divorce is not a failure. It is about facing reality and choosing a healthier path forward for yourself and your family. You can find show notes, trusted divorce resources, and expert guidance at divorceandbeyondpod.com. If this episode was helpful, follow the podcast and share it with someone who may need support right now. I'm Susan Guthrie. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back next time with more clarity, insight, and support on Divorce and Beyond.